Thank you for joining me on this episode of Sheila's Take. Today's episode, I have John Lawyer. In the biblical perspective, John's journey reflects the transformative power of faith and perseverance. His time as a soldier and civilian in the desert for 12 years signifies a period of testing and trials akin to the Israelites' journey in the wilderness. John's commitment to integrating spirituality with everyday life aligns with the biblical emphasis on living out one's faith in practical ways. The Apostle James, for instance, wrote about the importance of faith being expressed through actions. John's leadership in a nonprofit online spiritual and wellness community mirrors the biblical call to serve and support others, fostering a community that uplifts and encourages spiritual growth.
I think that the way that we have to approach it is saying, if I want to be this spiritual person, I want to live my values, I want to live my beliefs, I want to be aligned with my mind, body, and soul. I still have to be grounded in the day to day. I have to be centered. I have to eat right and sleep well and have good relationships and all these things, and have good financial, a good relationship with my finances. And I have to do all these things these are these blocks of life that if I do all of those things, then suddenly I have the time and space to really be a more spiritual person, to kind of live more aware, more intentional, more really at peace.
This is Sheila's Take, a podcast where you can hear my take on everything: love, hate, relationships, family, and today's issues with a godly perspective. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Thank you for joining me.
Welcome back to Sheila's Take. And on today's episode, I have the privilege of hosting a truly remarkable individual, John Lawyer. John brings with him a unique and transformative journey that has seen him transition from being a soldier and civilian in the desert for 12 years to embracing the path of healing and spiritual enlightenment. His commitment to integrating spirituality with the challenges of everyday life is not only inspiring, but also deeply insightful. Currently, John plays a pivotal role in a leading nonprofit online spiritual and wellness community where he serves as a guide, a coach, and a seeker. Join me as I dive into John's extraordinary experiences and gain valuable wisdom on navigating the convergence of spirituality and the real world. Welcome, John. How are you?
I'm good, Sheila. Thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your experience as a soldier and civilian in the desert. Can you share a little bit more about that and how did that time shape your perspective on life and spirituality?
Sure, I'd love to. I I joined the U.S. Army shortly before about a year before 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
and 9/11 kicked off about 6 months after I got to my first like permanent duty station after I was done with training. And
Wow.
so we were at war. So um, our unit was pretty much deployed all over the Middle East and Africa
Mm-hmm.
and South Asia. And I spent 2.5 years in Kuwait as a soldier. And then when I got out, I did the same thing as a civilian. Essentially, I was a counterintelligence special agent in the Army. And when I got out, went to Baghdad for over 18 months. And then I would eventually spend about 6.5 years consecutively in Kandahar, Afghanistan, and southern Afghanistan. And I think, I mean, obviously it was a formative experience because this is the first 15 years of my adult life, and
Mm-hmm.
12 of those years were spent on and off in the desert, right? So I think that it really taught me about uh, working with others. There's a brotherhood and a sisterhood to it. It was something that I believed in what I was doing and was like fundamentally like dedicated to it. Like I wanted to do well. I was kind of idealistic. I thought I was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have questions about the military industrial complex now, but you believe in what you're doing.
Right,
And
right.
but there's then the longer you're in it, the more you start to see the humanity of everything, that you see the enemy the quote unquote enemy, you see them as just people because they are
Mm-hmm.
just people. And you see like the toll it takes on you, you see the toll it takes on your friends and your fellow coworkers and soldiers and all that. And you see the darkness of it all. Like I think the US and the West does a really good job around the world at times, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of darkness that comes with it as well. So
Yeah.
I think that experience really it really broke me down eventually. Like when I finally came home, I was kind of busted up, right? And so, but that experience in the desert really it helped me see the light better, I think, because when you're surrounded by kind of that darkness and that pain and suffering and all and the trauma that comes with it, I think it opens up that other side of the universe that's the light. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it served a purpose.
Okay. So what are like some of the key factors that helped you in your healing process?
That's a great question. I would say the first thing, and it's not people don't always like this answer, but it's time. I think time helps because
Okay.
I think time is one of those things that it gives you perspective. Like when I came home, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what I was. I was completely had no identity because my identity was my job. My identity was my service, the mission. So I think time helped. And but I don't think it's not just time. I think that's an important thing. But I think that the healing process, I got partnered with a VA therapist who practiced Eastern medicine, like mindfulness meditation and even hypnosis, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to completely wrap my mind around mindfulness meditation and completely like give myself into it, but it kind of helped start me down a path, I think, that started that snowball rolling down a hill, if you will.
Okay.
And so that helped. And I was so invested in all these problems that I had, whether it was my depression or anxiety or PTSD or whatever, and or finances. I was invested in all this stuff that was happening and I couldn't really do anything about it. Uh, so part of what helped me was letting go of all this stuff that I was attached to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was before I was on my spiritual journey. I didn't,
Okay.
I mean, I mean, guys, we're always on it, even if we don't realize it. But this is before I realized I was on my spiritual journey. And so I think letting go of things and saying, I'm not going to be too invested in this because there's nothing I can do about it.
Right, right.
That was a very powerful thing as well.
So and here's my part two of the question. How did you find your spiritual path during that time?
Also a great question. For me, I was always a positive person. I was always a kind person, but I wasn't in a spiritual way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I never really intended to be the spiritualist. One day it was late at night. I was in bed with my wife. She was asleep. And I just had this really profound moment of understanding or clarity. And I knew that there was this oneness that we were all the same. We're all connected
Mm-hmm.
and we're kind of all saying the same thing, even if we have different practices and faith and
Right.
belief. It's all very similar stuff. And I said, why can't we all believe what we want to believe individually that works for us, but still stand by each other and practice it side by side and have discussions with one another. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just had this big moment and it changed my life.
So how do you navigate the balance between spirituality and what you ever when we messaged you said living in the real world. Well, how do you balance that?
I think that's really that balance, that point of balance is really everything because
Mhm.
most of us aren't going to go live in a monastery in the
Right.
mountains and right. We're going to live in the real world. We're going to
Exactly.
have jobs or have complications, have relationships and interact with other people that don't align with what we align with. So
Mhm.
I think that the way that we have to approach it is saying, if I want to be this spiritual person, I want to live my values, I want to live my beliefs, I want to be
Mhm.
aligned with my mind, body, and soul. I still have to be grounded in the day to day. I have to be centered I have to eat right and sleep well and have good relationships and all these things, and have good financial, a good relationship with my finances. And I have to do all these things these are these blocks of life that if I do all of those things, then suddenly I have the time and space to really be a more spiritual person, to kind of live more aware, more intentional, more really at peace, you know?
Okay. Okay. Let's kind of like switch gears a little bit. Now you're a guide and a coach and a seeker, and it's an online spiritual and wellness community, right?
That's right.
Um, what kind of support do you offer to individuals that are seeking spiritual growth and personal development?
From the community side, we have daily conversation prompts where we can talk about things so people can kind of participate or just watch and see what other people are saying. We have
Mhm.
daily affirmations and meditations, and we have weekly community events where we have Zoom events just kind of like this where we talk about spirituality
Okay.
or life. And that's on the community side. It provides kind of a safe, non-troll, non-ad, no ads environment where people can just be themselves
Hmm.
and have a place. And then from the individual side, the one-on-one individual spiritual guidance and coaching, it's a way to have that comfort that you are aligned in your mind, body, and soul, and that whether you're a driven professional, you're a stay-home parent, it doesn't really matter that you're living the life that you want to live.
Right.
Because if you're living that life, then everyone else around you is going to be better off because you're loving yourself, you're taking care of
Hmm.
yourself, and you're doing those things first for yourself, so everyone else benefits from that as well, just naturally.
I call that being your authentic self.
Yes.
Right? In the age that we're living in now, where we have the social media and everyone is saying, oh, well, look at the life this person is living and look at the life that this person is living. I think it's very important that we be our authentic selves, because when we be who we are meant to be, we don't get caught up in all of that, all of the worldly kind of issues and um isms and schisms and all of that other,
Yeah.
nonsense that we see. Because let's be real, everything that we see on social media is put out there. It's a lot of those people are not being their authentic selves, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely. Can you tell us more about your nonprofit organization, and what is its mission and what role do you play in it?
Yes, it was we created it. My wife and I created it together. She was overseas with me for most of this time. She had a very
Hmm.
similar job to me. So she has a very similar experience and background. And so she's a co-founder, and then another friend of ours who grew up in the Balkans in Bosnia and at war, and then ended up in Afghanistan with us. Is where we met. She's also a founder, and we wanted a place that was uh, where you could have authentic, meaningful connection even in the digital age, and the age of the internet, where we could still have places online where you can have a community, you can have
Right.
human connections. And uh, we named it, it's called Kishar. It's named after the Sumerian goddess of Mother Earth
Mhm.
and Gaia. So it also represents the line on the horizon, which we think kind of beautifully encapsulates that journey that we're all on. And all the funds from the community go back into the community. We don't take salaries or anything like that. So it's a, you know, it's a very kind of upfront and a place just for people to find themselves and find a way to help themselves. We can help people help themselves.
Okay. In your work as a guide and a coach, what are some common challenges that, people face when trying to merge spirituality with everyday life? How do you help them overcome those challenges?
It's highly individualized
Mhm.
because each every person is different. We have things that they can fill out, and then we can talk to them about it. But it often comes down to we get really deep into how people are they living their purpose? Like, what's their higher purpose? What's their dharma?
Mhm.
And do they know what it is? And if they don't know what it is, can they find it? And then when they find it, how do you live that every day? Do you live that with your job? Do you live that with your how you're living your daily life? Because if we're living our higher purpose, if this is how we kind of are meant to live, then we kind of have a more peaceful, aligned existence.
One of the books that I've read and reread a couple of times is Rick Warren's A Purpose-Driven Life. I don't know if you've read it, but it gives us guidance on exactly why we're here and what our purpose is. And it's geared to, you read it one chapter a day, and it gives you a lot of insight to finding your purpose and what we're meant to be here for. But getting back to some of the challenges, what are some of this spiritual and wellness practices or techniques that you find most impactful for individuals who are seeking a deeper connection with their spirituality?
I think that I encourage people to find a way to meditate that works for them, because I think meditation can be this. It doesn't have to be traditional; it could be almost anything, and to find a way to connect with themselves and the world and nature around them and the universe. And so sometimes that's mindfulness meditation, and it could take on many other forms. It could be yoga, it could be tai chi. So I think that's an important practice. We also work with people to figure out, like you talked about, a purpose-driven life, and like, well, okay, what when you think about what your purpose is, start with what are your values? What can you write your values down? Can you
Right.
identify what they are? What are your beliefs? What do you believe in? Like if you are prone to be a spiritual person, then what does your spirituality look like? Is it a mix of philosophies? Is it a mix of faiths? So I think that, like, we have a method, I call it the soul method. It's spirituality. So figuring your spirituality at looking at the oneness. So the SO, looking at the oneness of things, the universe, understanding yourself. And then the L stands for love, love yourself. And also we talked about those blocks of life, those life blocks of those things that we do every day: sleep right, eat right, that 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 help us live our purpose, help us find our spiritual path, help us really live a healthier, more joyful existence every day. Simple things, small things.
How do you approach personal growth and continued learning in your own spiritual journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. I read a lot. I I try to read books from all around the world, from each, from Christianity through Buddhism and Hinduism to the indigenous faiths and practices, from Native Americans through indigenous tribes in Africa, just to see what does the rest of the world have to say. Like, I read philosophy. My goal in doing that is to further my own spiritual practice, and also so I can better communicate with others, because just like you and I having this conversation
Right.
today will inform me about something that I hadn't thought of before.
Are there any specific teachings that have had a profound impact on you?
For sure. Because even though I'm a universalist and I believe in honoring all faiths and traditions, I still have some that resonate more with me individually. And I really appreciate some of the pantheistic, kind of wider idea of Hinduism and the connection with the universe. And I appreciate Taoism and, the yin and the yang, the balance of the universe. And there's some particular, I don't know if you've ever read Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, but there's some indigenous Native American traditions from the Anishinaabe that really resonate with me. I don't practice them. I'm not Native American, but they've helped inform my own, like, not that we aren't in nature, we are nature. We're part of it all. And so, yeah, I think those have all helped define who I am. And I grew up Christian, Southern Baptist. And I'm not Christian now, but I tell people now that I feel more Christian today than I ever felt when I was in the church.
Okay. So okay. So I'm going to stop you right there. You have to explain that. You
Yeah.
cannot say that and not tell me what do you mean. You got to tell me what you mean by that.
Sure. I look at the teachings of Jesus Christ, and
Mhm.
I think they're very similar to the Buddha and many other spiritual traditions around the world. I think that Jesus Christ and like Christ consciousness, that idea of God inside of us, Christ inside of us, um, is this powerful thing. And I don't think it's any different. I don't see it any different. I don't see Christianity and that Christ consciousness any different from the Hindu Brahmin or the Taoism. Uh, I see it that we're all connected, and so and if you I also think that if you look at like Christian mystics, some of the Jesuits and some of the people throughout history, they were quieted by the Catholic Church and by the Protestant Church, because they were saying basically we're all empowered with God inside of us.
Mhm.
And so I think that's why I can look at these other faiths and look at Christianity and see how they're all connected and say I still feel Christian inside, uh, more now than ever because of that. Uh, because if you look at religion without man having touched it too much,
Mhm.
I think it becomes a lot simpler. It's this more beautiful, simple thing that doesn't have to be complicated.
And thanks for
Yeah.
explaining that. Um, how do you create and maintain a sense of community within the online platform that you run? Like, what opportunities do members have to connect with and with or each other and support one another?
Sure. The community is built on a platform called Mighty Networks, and it's like its own it's like its own walled off community away from everything else. So there's no
Mhm.
background noise. It's just us. And we have, like I said, we have prompts every day where we have conversations and people give their, this is my thoughts on that. This is my thoughts on
Right.
this.
Okay.
Um, and so people can just have conversations. They can direct message one another within the platform. They can direct message us if they have a question or need help. And it's pretty, it's lightly moderated. So
Mm-hmm.
there's enough moderation that you're getting some prompts and some discussion to have, but we're not interfering with what people are talking about or things like that. All we ask is for people to have open minds and
Right. Okay.
to respect each other. It's that kind of thing. So it's a really peaceful, kind of loving place where if someone was Christian or someone was Hindu or someone was even an atheist, it doesn't matter. We can all um, have conversations.
So everyone is welcome.
Yeah, anybody that has an open mind. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if someone wants to come in and say my way is the only way, then I
Right,
mean that's
right.
not really what we're about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you come in and say my way is my way and your way is your way, then no problem whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. How do you measure the success or gauge the impact of the work you're doing in the online spiritual and wellness community?
That's a really good question.
I'm
I
glad I'm asking some good ones
Yeah,
today.
it's a great question. I think I gauge my success by
Mhm.
are people finding their light? Are people finding their way? Are people able to see that they are whole inside, whether they know
Mhm.
it or not? Because I believe people are whole inside whether we know it or not. And I judge my success as just people finding some light, people finding some wholeness inside, and also being able to just have meaningful connections with one another and just talk, because I
Mhm.
that's success. Because I think just like you and I having this conversation today, that's success because we're being open-minded, we're talking to each other.
Right,
I
right.
think I think we're trying to put I believe that we can change the world by changing ourselves, and our small little part of the world around us, we're lifting the whole world up. So that, to me, that's success.
Oh, okay. That's good. I like that. I like that. Um, my last question. What are you grateful for?
I am most grateful for, I think, my health. I'm grateful every day for being healthy, and I think health is a form of wealth. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's what I'm grateful for the most.
Oh, Yeah, that to be healthy, I think when one has their health, it is a blessing,
Absolutely.
because again, if you're feeling good and you can get out there and do what you can do, but if you're not, it's not a good thing. Do you have a website or somewhere where my listeners can reach out to you if you want to give that information?
Sure. We have our main site is kishar.org, KISHAR.org, and that's the entrance to our community, and it gives background on us so people can see who we are, and it has all of our socials, and we have a YouTube channel as well that just is free and open to the public, and tries to be helpful for people
And what's
out there.
what's your YouTube channel?
It's called Peace on Your Journey. So just at Peace on Your Journey on YouTube.
Peace on Your Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I always like to tell people, slow things down. We have more time than we think, and we don't need to chase perfection. We might have perfection inside of us, that divine thing inside of us, but we don't have to live perfection in the world every day.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I thank you, John, for taking the time to stop on my show, and I appreciate you. And
Yeah.
I hope you continue to do what you're doing. You're bringing good things together, and go out there and keep, leading people to to where they need to be led. Letting them know what
Thank you,
their
Sheila.
purpose is, helping them. Let me change that. Helping them find their purpose, because that's important,
Thank you
and
so much.
I appreciate you so much.
Same. I really appreciate the show.
Thank you.
Join me next time where I will continue to discuss more of today's issues. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Blessings to you.